Ooh, some mood lighting. I like it.
All right, guys, so welcome to a brand new video. Today's video, a little bit different. We're not going to talk about headphones. We're not going to, well, actually, we probably will talk about headphones, but we have a very special guest. And, honestly, usually I want to introduce people, but I really just don't. I honestly don't think there's a need to introduce this guy. I mean, come on. You have, did you hit 2 million yet? Because you're really close.
Really close, really close. Okay. Hopefully soon.
Maybe by the time this video's up, he's going to hit 2 million. But either way, today's interview is with the one and only Austin Evans.
What's up, dude? Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it. I mean, for you to take the time to do this is pretty awesome. So I got the first question right off the bat. I have to ask you this because I always see it in your comment sections and in Twitter. How many times a day do you have people come up to you and go, "Hey guys, this is Austin"?
Thankfully, almost never. Thankfully,
really?
That almost never happens. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm able to meet people in person every once in a while, but it's probably happened like 2 or 3 times. Most people are just like, "Hey, I watch your videos," not like, "Hey guys, this is Austin." Like people don't thankfully do that often.
They don't get you to try to say it in public. I know when you go to like CES and stuff like that, they have to do it.
It happens every once in a while, but mostly people are cool. I feel like people understand how it's not like it's a big deal, but I think people are generally just like, "Hey, cool." Because I don't know, it's one of those things where when I meet people in person, it's almost like we're already friends, which is kind of weird. But I guess in some ways, like, obviously I haven't seen you, but like if you're coming up and saying hi, like you probably watched a bunch of videos and stuff. And so it's sort of a natural thing where it's just like, "Oh, hey, how's it going? Oh yeah, cool, new gaming PC build," or whatever. It's sort of like a natural thing.
I think it's that sense of you already have some kind of things in common, and it's that connection right off the bat because they're watching your videos, so they're obviously interested in things that you already talk about.
Right, exactly. So I think that really kind of helps make things not awkward. I mean, of course, sometimes it's a little weird and awkward, but like for the most part, it's like cool. It's like, hey, hanging out, all fun, happy, good times.
Yeah. All right. So how long have you been on YouTube?
I created my channel in 2007 and started regularly uploading in 2009.
All right. So what was the first video? What was the first thing you ever uploaded?
Okay. So my first video was application review #1. So essentially what I did was I took my Rock Band microphone from the PlayStation 2, plugged it into my terrible old laptop, and I took screenshots of a few different apps using my iPod Touch and voiceovered them. And that was it. It was like 7 minutes of boring, like, "Hey guys, so today I'm here with a video. It's a very good video." It was terrible.
Hey guys, this is Duncan, and you're watching my very first application review, which is going to be focused on a few first-person shooters I've found available in the App Store. Let's get this one started.
Terrible, but it's still live.
Mine kind of started this. Well, my first video was actually, I started wanting to think this was going to be a gaming channel. I was like, well, everybody's doing it. This has got to be simple to do. And quickly realized, like, it's not easy to sit there and play games and just talk over it and talk random. I would love to have a gaming channel. To actually sit here and get paid just to play games would be ideal.
Right. I actually had a gaming channel for about 4 or 5 months. I think it was it's youtube.com/D3. I think I had that URL.
Is it still there?
I don't know. Actually, I want to find this out now. I think so.
We're going to check. We got to check that.
So 989 subscribers. The last video was uploaded 5 years ago. Oh no, there's one from 2012. Sorry, so there's one extra video. Some country, as you guys can see here, gorgeous graphics. I mean, this game is 3 years old. I want to say, not 100% sure. It's kind of an older game, but man, it still looks great. And there's some still really cool features in Far Cry 2.
Okay, so when was it like that you realized this is what you wanted to do for a living? Like, it had to be some video where it was like, you know what? I'm not too bad at this, and people seem to like what I'm doing.
Man, it was early. It was
really
early. It was like by video 2. I was like,
really?
Whoa. Yeah. So basically, the way I kind of got my channel started was I was really into. This is when the App Store was new, so I was really into like the iPhone, the iPod,
right.
And
yeah, you've always seemed to be an Apple Apple fan.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
Right.
So before I actually had the channel, I was working with a friend of mine who did have a channel at the time, which was like a couple thousand subscribers, which is huge back then.
Oh yeah.
He had a website, and so I was like writing like written reviews for the site. So I would take screenshots, pretty much what my first video was, but just imagine in text form, which was honestly a better format for that anyway. So when I started, he gave me a shout out pretty early. I feel like it was like the first video. And I remember I started with, I think it was like 50 or 100 subscribers. It wasn't a lot, but for me, I was like, whoa, this is huge. This is, more than I had ever gotten on really anything ever on the internet. So I was like, yo, this is fun. And I remember the second video was like on the very first real racing. It was like, I think they just announced it, but this was the first like realistic looking racing game for the iPhone. Right. And I was like, this is awesome. And I did a video on it, and I think it ended up getting like few thousand views or something. So my first two videos, I kind of started off really strong back in the day, and I was like, yo, this is it. I want to keep doing this.
Yeah. So you said you got a shout out. That kind of leads to one of my other questions. In YouTube, I've realized like one of the most important things is to actually have connections, like other people. Like, I mean, you guys, like right now with Jonathan and Lou and all them, you kind of have like the Rat Pack of tech, YouTube stuff. Like that's the only way to explain it. And
right.
How important is that?
I think it's really important, but I think it's not a unique YouTube thing. I think it's important in life to kind of build connections and build sort of a good sort of group of friends who not only can be helpful, just as friends, but also as you're sort of building, whatever it is, and whether you're on like a soccer team or you're trying to build a YouTube channel, it's helpful to have support. And I think that's been something that's been super valuable. I think for the first couple of years, there really wasn't a sense of community. I mean, everyone kind of knew everyone a little bit, but it really wasn't sort of built up until I'd say probably 2012, 2013, 2014, which is where it kind of started really picking up. And then I think the 2014, that year, we were hanging out. We were like, I feel like I saw John and Lou and Marquez like 5, 6, 7 times over the year. Like we were going to events, we were doing crazy collabs. Like it's just sort of it was like lightning in a bottle. We realized, hey, wait a minute, we can do all these things together. We can do cooler, crazier things than any of us could do by ourselves. And people love it, and it's super successful. Like it was just a win-win all the way around. So I think we really kind of doubled down on it.
Yeah. So with you guys all doing tech, do you ever kind of say, okay, well, I'm going to review this, and then you kind of pass it on so everybody's not buying the same thing?
Yeah. So as far as like products?
Yeah, because I noticed like you and Jonathan like did the Beats X pretty close to one another. So I didn't know if that was kind of one of those scenarios.
So that was actually one of those things where someone from Beats reached out to both of us separately, but at the same time just said, hey, these are coming out. Do you want to get them a few days early? So we were both like, yeah. Sure. So, so stuff like that, I think was just sort of a coincidence that we both got them. But yeah, absolutely. Like a lot of times, if someone gets a product or whatever, we'll share it or whatever. I mean, it's sort of a helpful thing to be able to not only just, save a little bit of money on not having to buy that extra thing, but also it's just nice to be able to collab. And, like in the Beats X video where it wasn't really a huge collab, but it's like, hey, if you want a different sort of point of view, go check out John's video, vice versa. Just kind of help push everyone along and kind of make the videos a little bit better because of it.
So speaking of Beats, since, this channel kind of revolves around headphones and everybody kind of has their own opinion of Beats, I've noticed, and a lot of my viewers have noticed, that since Apple bought them out, they're actually not as bad as people have their mentality. Like the original studios, like the first gen of Beats, the solos, they were awful. Like they were really bad. But now they're not. I mean, they're still overpriced. I still think that, but I don't think they're as bad. Like, what is your opinion? I mean, I've watched your videos, so I kind of know your opinion, but for everybody else.
Well, I'll start by saying that one of those early review products I got were the first gen Beat Studios. Wow. And I was, I'll be generous and say a novice at the time. I'm like, these sound great. I love them. They're great.
That's what got this. And when I try to explain it, because like I'm heavy into headphones now, that is the pair of headphones that got me into headphones. I walked by in Best Buy and I put them on and I was like, shit, I've never heard stuff sound like this. But then you quickly realize, like, all right, well,
there's a whole other world out there. But I mean, I've got to give Beats some credit. I think they really did sort of kind of excite the market. I think everyone was kind of okay. Like I used to have like a pair of like $20 Sony headphones, and like, oh, they're completely fine, whatever. But then I feel like Beats came out, and then a lot of people started sort of saying like, hey, wait, you can get better for cheaper, and it kind of got a lot of excitement around or at least in the tech space. I'm sure on the audiophile space, there's no big surprise. But I think it just got people excited about headphones.
Yeah, it's become an addiction for me because I'm always trying to see like, okay, well, what is going to outdo the pair that I have now? The next pair. It's an ongoing thing, which is now why this channel exists. It's my addiction to headphones.
Yeah, man. But Beats these days, I totally agree, are much better. I think even, I would say they tend to be overpriced, but it's not even really that bad. Like, I think the Beats X are maybe a little bit expensive, but considering what you're getting, I can't really say that they should be that much cheaper. I mean, it seems like you're getting a fair bit for your money there.
I think so. And then with the, what is it, the W1 chip?
Right.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of things that have it. And if you're an Apple, like if you have so many things, it's kind of a no-brainer to get, you know, to get something that has that in there.
Sure, absolutely. It works well, and it's just kind of makes everything about Bluetooth just that much more seamless. So it's kind of a, I don't want to say it's a no-brainer, but it definitely makes sense.
Yeah. All right. So I've recently made a mistake in a video. And so this kind of like, I was so excited to do that, and I don't know how you are about it now, but like if you know a product's coming out, you're like the first one to get a hold of it. Like you want to be one of the first ones to do the video of it. I was so damn excited. Like I didn't rush anything, but like in the editing process, for some reason, I accidentally hit 360p. Like that's how it rendered it.
No!
I didn't fucking save the thing. I didn't save the file. So 360p was all I had. So this video, like, it was the new Sony Platinum wireless gaming headset. I was the first one up there with a 360p video, and a lot of people made comments about it. It still did really well, but I know you, over the years, you've had to have done, maybe not something that stupid, but
yes,
maybe worse?
Yes. Yeah, I think there have been lots of issues. I think there's always, something simple like, you overlook, when you export it, or when you're editing in Final Cut, it's easy to accidentally add like a bunch of like blank space at the end of the video. So all of a sudden it's like, why is this video 8 minutes long? Because there's a 5-minute section of nothing at the end.
Right.
But I've also had like, I don't want to say worse, but definitely more serious issues. Like just recently, I guess it's perfect. I could talk about it today because that was the point when the embargo lifted. But I went out to San Francisco last week for the AMD Ryzen launch, and it was, I will say,
I saw where you pulled that.
Yes. It was a little bit of a complicated situation in that there were multiple dates that you could talk about some things on this date and some things on this date and some things on this date. It was sort of spread out, which it makes sense from their point of view that they want to kind of maximize the news cycle and instead of dumping everything at once. But it was I'll say a little bit unclear what you could and couldn't talk about. Mostly on my part because I may or may not have noticed the particular thing that was mentioned. So yeah, I got a wonderful call, and I was like, hey, you should have put that in the video. Can you take it down? I was like,
because you already you got a ton of views right at the beginning.
It was at 140,000 views, and I had to take it down.
Yeah, that's gotta hurt.
That hurt. Yeah, and so then it was a thing where I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? I had because the phone call woke me up. I was asleep because it was like a 6 a.m. launch. Like put it up, cool. Went to sleep for like in a couple hours. Woke up like within 30 seconds of being awake. I had taken the video down. So I was like, wait a minute, stop. Think about this for a second. What do we do? My first thought was, well, that's it for the video. But I was like, no. This is still new. It's doing really well. I don't want to kind of like lose all this momentum. So I had to get a little creative.
Yeah. Well, you have to do that sometimes.
Yeah, man. It always sucks when you have like an issue like that, but everyone makes mistakes. I think people get it. It's not something that I want to make a habit of or anything like that, but it's fine. I mean, people understand.
All right. So this is kind of fresh as far as timing goes, but like you've had time with the Switch, and so this interview was like delayed slightly because I had to take care of me getting my Switch. And
oh, really?
Yes. Yeah, so I haven't played it or touched it, nothing. This went straight from taking care of that to getting here to do this. And so I've heard your opinion on the Switch. I want to know your opinion on Zelda because honestly, during the release, that's what everybody's going to be playing.
Right. I am ashamed to admit I have not played that much Zelda. I've had not a yeah, I know, man.
I've seen videos going up. So yeah, you you don't have a whole lot of time.
Dude, man. So because basically what happened was I had Switch and Ryzen both at the same time.
Right.
So I had essentially a couple days with each to be able to do everything, do all the testing, shoot the video, edit, do everything. So essentially with Switch, I almost entirely focused on the hardware because honestly, I mean, I'm not a gaming channel. I'm not going to do a video on Zelda. So I played Zelda, but I only really played Zelda as a way of learning about the Switch, not to actually enjoy the game. So yeah, I haven't really played much at all, man. I've really kind of focused on trying to get these videos out. Like today's been the first day in like a week that I've actually been able to breathe and be like, hey,
and then now I'm taking your time. So now I'm keeping you from playing Zelda.
I'll find some time at some point in my life.
All right. So speaking of gaming, what is your all-time favorite gaming system?
Game Boy Color.
Really?
Yes.
I would have never thought.
Yeah, Game Boy Color was the very first console that I ever got. We had a PlayStation, I remember when I was like 4 or 5, something like that.
Right.
But the Game Boy was my first console that was mine. And man, I sunk so many hours into playing Pokemon Red and then Pokemon Gold on that. And, oh, man, the Game Boys have a very special place in my heart. That was my childhood. That really was it.
So does the Switch to you still feel like a kind of a modern version of, like, does it seem like Nintendo is maybe pushing out the DS and the 3DS and saying this is the way to go?
I mean, I know they haven't firmly denied it, that it's not going to replace the 3DS, but it's hard for me to see the 3DS existing in the same world that the Switch does. I think maybe, I don't know. My kind of thought is Switch is kind of replacing both 3DS and Wii U. And it's kind of doing it in a sort of middle ground where it's obviously much more powerful than something like the 3DS, but it's clearly not as powerful as something like an Xbox One. It's handheld. You can dock it. So my thought is the 3DS's days are certainly numbered. I think it's about time for the Switch to kind of take over. I do think that the price point of the Switch is fine for a sort of, main console, but it's not really fine for a portable console. So I would be interested to see if they can at some point get that down closer to $250, ideally maybe even like $200 at some point with maybe like a slim version or whatever. But yeah, I definitely do think that they're kind of, it's an interesting hybrid, but I do think it works in sort of bridging the gap between the two systems.
Yep, I completely agree. All right, so you said that with using the Switch, obviously you kind of take some time to do this and do that. How do you actually approach your videos? So for like people that do YouTube, I don't think a lot of people realize the B-roll type footage that goes into videos. They think like you just get in front of the camera, you shoot, like the video may be 10 minutes and they think that it only takes you maybe 15 to 20 minutes to do it. And like you have to explain it, at least because coming from you, people are going to sit there and, understand, all right, maybe this is a long process.
Okay, it absolutely is. So I'm lucky enough to have some help. So I work with a good friend of mine, Ken, who kind of helps on the shooting side. He's like always running the camera when I'm in, obviously in front of the camera.
He makes appearances in videos too.
He definitely does. He's got a big cameo in a video coming up in I think like 2 weeks or so it'll go live. But yeah, he's a big part of that one. But yeah, so basically we always kind of start any kind of video with like a planning session. So we'll kind of get together and say, okay, usually, some cool product like Switch is, a good example of something that, okay, we're going to get the Switch. What do we do with it?
Right.
And pretty quickly we realize, okay, well, let's go at it from is it worth it angle? Because that's kind of what we generally do. It's the closest thing that we do to reviews. So we do, okay, so we figure that out. We usually kind of pull up some bullet points, some certain points we want to hit. And usually, especially with series like that, there's a fairly solid format that we just kind of do. So it starts with the normal sort of setup where I unbox it, talk about each sort of individual bit and piece, sort of first impressions to see how it feels. And then usually at some point, once the sort of initial impressions are over, we'll cut. Then that's the point where I'll go and actually spend time with the product. So even though in the video, it's got straight from me at the table to, me, sitting right behind me, on the TV, but usually there's a couple days in between that, depending on the product. Sometimes there's less time, but there's always some time where I actually get to go and spend time with the product. And then that's sort of a whole other phase of the video where I go, okay, what do I want to test? So, people are asking, for example, about the Switch, about like battery packs. So one of the first things I wanted to do is try a bunch of different, ways of charging it, see how that works, play games, see how it works over a little bit more of a long term beyond just this thing's fresh out of the box. So there's a sort of like discovery and exploration phase there. And then there's the actual sort of final part of the video where, we'll shoot like, okay, and this is how it works and it's cool. And I like this and I don't like this and whatever. And then there's the whole, obviously grabbing B-roll and getting additional footage, and then editing and color and music, which is a big part of edits that I think a lot of people overlook.
Oh, yeah.
And then if all that goes well, then the video goes live and hopefully it doesn't get taken down because I forgot something.
Okay, so I have to ask this because I get this on a smaller scale, so I know that you get this. Anytime you review products, do you feel that you always have to kind of look for negatives just so, because if you don't, people always assume that you're sponsored, like this video is sponsored, like I get it all the time. It's like you cannot like a product without getting accused of that.
Yes. Yeah, it's not something I really think about that much. I think I try to kind of give people my honest opinion on something, and some products are much more positive than others. And of course, some are sponsored, but I always do my best to disclose that as clearly as I can so people understand what they're getting. At least I hope they do. But yeah, I try to keep it fairly neutral. I've definitely kind of found myself sort of getting a little excited in videos. So surprise, surprise.
It's like tone that down. Tone it down.
Right. Like I think a good example of this was actually the Ryzen video. So I recently did a build with the full Ryzen processor and graphics, and it wasn't Ryzen graphics, but like it was a fairly high end build. And so I do the whole thing, and in the edit, I'm looking back and going like, wow, I was super, super positive about this whole thing because I kind of got sort of caught up. I was like, oh, this is cool. Oh, look, this is great. And it's sort of like I wasn't trying to mislead, but I was just like, oh, wow, this is like a super, super positive thing. So what I ended up actually doing was kind of like reshooting and sort of re-editing a little bit because it's like, I think this is cool, but watching the video, you would think I'm the biggest fanboy in the world because I got really excited about the build and all that kind of stuff. So there are definitely sort of moments like that where I kind of have to, in my head, I think it all makes sense and everything, but I'll watch it back and go like, man, I was a little over the top there, or maybe I forgot to mention something or whatever. So sometimes there'll be a little adjustment to the video, but those are thankfully fairly rare. Most of the time, I'm able to kind of get a decent enough balance on the sort of first run through of the video and kind of get the idea across without being super over the top and a giant fanboy.
Right. All right. So I think we talked about this on Twitter a long time ago, but how often do you have to go back and watch your videos just so like, oh, I had to remember how this actually worked. It's not to actually watch yourself, but like you do a video and you may not deal with that product for a little while and you go back and you're like, wait a minute, I forgot how this works. And
I can one up you there.
All right.
I have Googled products and then found my own videos and go, oh, right, and watched my videos. Yep. Like not even just going back to refresh, but like legitimately, like, especially for like some of the retro things, you're like, oh, I was trying to remember some spec or whatever. And I'll just like stumble across one of my videos. And so that's always a really weird moment where I kind of realized, because I mean, so our schedule is roughly 2 videos a week, sometimes a little bit more, but generally speaking, 2 videos a week. And over 6-7 years, that adds up to be a lot. Right. So it's one of those things where I'm kind of embarrassed to admit a lot of times, a month or 2 after a video, I've not remembered much from it. Like I will, like if you ask me about a video I did in December, I might remember a few things, but I've probably forgotten most of the details because it's just a constant stream of stuff. And I'll completely immerse myself in the video when it comes live or like when I'm like working on it. Right. But literally the second that thing is uploaded, within 30 minutes, my head's already to the next one. I'm already kind of planning and ready to kind of jump into the next project. So yeah, it's embarrassing at how quickly I really kind of move on to the next thing.
You have to. And I do the same thing because like I have to go back when people ask me questions like, well, can this work with this? And then I have to go back to see if I actually mentioned that.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's a sort of thing where not only is it like something as simple as, you forget to mention it, but also, and I don't know how it is for your videos, but I know for mine a lot, I will say way more than actually ends up being in the video. Obviously, I think it's pretty common. Most people don't just upload raw videos, but
well, you realize you start to sound like you're rambling at a certain point.
Yes. But I mean, so to give you some context, the Switch video ended up being 7.5 minutes, something like that. But just the unboxing section, which ended up being the first like half the video, I think that was about 55 minutes of recording. So you figure 55 minutes down to 3, maybe 3.5.
Right.
There's obviously, I mean, most of the stuff is garbage and I'll do like multiple takes or I get a line wrong or whatever. But there's also a lot of points that I'll talk about that in the edit, I'm like, that wasn't really important. This is dragging on too long. So
I think you should upload a 55-minute unboxing video just for the hell of it.
That would. Okay,
do you want to see the like to dislike ratio on that? It would be perfect.
Man, I do not think I ever want to do that. But yeah, I think there's a lot of times where I will, deliberately cut something out of the video because I think it's boring, and then, or for whatever reason, and I'll get comments like, "Hey, you forgot to mention this." I'm like, "I did. I just cut it out. Sorry."
Yeah, it's like it really wasn't that important.
Exactly. And of course, sometimes I do cut too much. I think I usually err on the side of cutting more than leaving in.
Yeah, I noticed your videos aren't really as long as most people. Now, I know some people have the mentality of like every video needs to be at least 10 minutes because you get this and that. You don't seem to focus on that. You seem to focus on, I'm going to get the important stuff there. It's going to be entertaining. And you can tell like you're not focusing on the length of the video.
Exactly. Especially back, so about a year or so ago, I switched over from being scripted to unscripted. So like all the unboxings and stuff, I never have any kind of script. Maybe a slight outline or a couple bullet points of things I need to mention, but it's pretty much just kind of all off the cuff. But back in the day, I used to really kind of focus on scripting word by word the entire thing. And I feel like that was helpful in kind of maximizing just the amount of information that I could get into a small package. I used to really pride myself on in 3 minutes being more informative than some people are in 10 plus.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things I was really excited about. But as the YouTube algorithm has changed and as how I've just kind of found that that's just not as fulfilling for me to kind of make as a style of videos, I think I've definitely sort of kind of focused more on just making videos as long as it feels like it needs to be. I mean, most videos I think are probably in the 4 to 5 minute range. Some of the more complicated things like Switch are like 6, 7, but it would be a really struggle. It would be a big struggle for me to try to think of a video I've made that's over 10 minutes. I'm sure I've done over 10-minute videos, but it's definitely been a while.
Okay, so I think like with not reading from a script, I honestly think, because I could tell in your videos, and it's kind of how I approach it. I refuse to do a script. I tried it a few times. I honestly just feel like it's more like if you're running into this person in public, somebody's asking you a question about it, it seems like you're genuinely talking to that person instead of just reading the back of the box, which is essentially, to me, what a script feels like. So, and I know that's not the case in all, in all videos, but I just feel like it's more personable.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a huge reason why I feel like the change has been so helpful. So since you can go on Social Blade and you can look at the graph of like the views and subscribers, everything were up until June. June is when Ken joined the team and we started doing less and less scripted videos, and pretty quickly we phased them out. So it was a really quick transition. And you can see from that point to now, literally just was up. And I feel like a huge part of that was the videos are more entertaining. And plus, I feel like unscripted videos are easier to make. I think instead of spending a day working on my script, I would spend an hour shooting. Even if it takes an hour to record 3 minutes worth of video, that's still way less time than it takes to fully script stuff and go super in depth. Because honestly, and I don't know, I feel like probably most people won't agree with this, but this is something that I felt for a long time, is that YouTube is not the place for exhaustive, in-depth technical reviews. I feel like if I want to know the ins and outs of a new Ryzen processor, I'm going to go to a non-tech and read their 23-page, incredibly well-detailed, hundreds of man hours put into every little thing. I want to kind of get all the information I can. If I was going to watch a YouTube version of that, it would be an hour and a half long. And
well, you have to think of kind of the approach of your demographic. Okay, you are going to have the ones that are like diehard, want to know every spec, but that's not majority. The majority of people are just hitting play, just want just enough info, and you try to get that in there because their attention span, it's you'll see. I mean, you obviously probably check how long people stay and watch the video.
Of course. Absolutely. And that's a huge part of a lot of the decisions I make on the creative side is, is this going to keep people engaged for longer, right? I always want people to watch videos and, I want them to hit the end of the video and watch another one and another one. Like I want to keep people watching as much as possible. So any kind of fluff that I can cut that will, I'll look through analytics and see, oh, look, people are dropping off at this point when I do this thing. Better stop doing that thing. I want to kind of keep it nice and tight. So yeah, you're totally right. I just think for me, YouTube is a place to kind of share experiences and kind of share maybe a little bit more of a watered down sort of review style versus the super technical, over the top, very, very detailed stuff. I feel like you can get for 95% of people enough information in a 5, 6, 7 minute video. And if there's extra 5% of people want more information, there's still other sources out there. But I just don't feel like video is a good medium for that kind of stuff.
Right. All right, so I have to ask this because your videos, people portray you a certain way. I think they have like this image of this is Austin. How do people react when they see you in Ralphie's videos? Because that's a whole completely different side of Austin that you don't get on your channel.
I feel like I almost kind of treat when I'm in Ralphie's videos as if I had some second channel. Just it's like I feel like, and you probably know this as a YouTuber, and I feel like most kind of YouTubers I talk to are like this. You're not a different person when you're recording videos, but you're elevated. You're on point, right?
You have to kind of like turn it on a little bit.
Bring it up. Exactly. I feel like the best way to describe it is, you know, you at home hanging out with your brother or your mom or your girlfriend or whatever versus you at a party, right? You're still the same person, but in a sort of social situation or making a video, you kind of have to elevate the energy and kind of be more excited and just kind of be interesting, right? Because if everyone has a day where I'm just like, oh, I just want to sit on the couch and be lazy. But if I had that energy in your video, I'm like,
well, it would be like you said your first video when you were just when you were just sitting there reading it. It was just it's monotone. It's talking like this. It's not Nobody wants to hear that.
So I feel like everyone kind of has to turn on to a certain degree. But that being said,
not be fake. There's a line. There's a line,
and that's an easy line to cross. I've absolutely gone too far on that end. I get called out a lot by people saying like, "Oh, that was a fake laugh," even though it is never a fake laugh. I'm actually laughing, but it just seems cringy. But I mean, there's definitely it's a very nuanced sort of thing. It's not a clear yes or no, you know, because it's all kind of a spectrum. But I think it's always kind of interesting to see when I'm able to go from doing an Austin Evans video to something like a Ralphie video where I don't care.
I was gonna say it doesn't reflect on your channel. You can just kind of do whatever the hell you want. And
that's exactly it.
It only affects Ralphie's channel, and who cares, right?
Don't tell him you said that. No, it's exactly it. I think it just for my channel, I have tried to cultivate a very specific image. I try to keep it clean. I try to keep it very much on point.
You're talking about tech that you're working with businesses that people don't understand. Like I've just recently got a sponsor to sponsor the next 5 videos, so I have to I have to think about that so that I don't want to lose that. Absolutely. But at the same time, I still have to please the people that are watching the videos as well.
Absolutely. I was just fortunate enough to do a thing with McDonald's. I was able to host an event for them, and that was amazing. And that probably would not have happened if they would have clicked on my channel and saw a bunch of Ralphie style videos.
Probably
as fun as they are to do. Obviously, you know, there's a certain sort of image I try to portray, and kind of, you know, there's a certain way I kind of like to do things. But that being said,
you're selling yourself at all times. Like
sure,
you're the product.
That's a great way of thinking about it, right? You have to be cognizant, not just to be fake or to kind of watch what you say, but you just have to be aware of the sort of image that you are portraying, right? Because at the end of the day, people will come and go, products will come and go, but you are you, and that's sort of the thing that sort of persists. So you need to be very aware of how you present yourself, how you want to present yourself, where that kind of goes. So I think when I get to do Ralphie videos, it's always fun, and I get to kind of have a good time. And, you know, I think a lot of the hardcore audience who kind of goes over, it's like, oh, did Austin just do that? It's that. It's you. It's a sort of different thing. But at the end of the day, it's sort of just a fun thing to do that I get to kind of blow off the steam that I would love to do on my main channel, but obviously don't want to for various reasons. But yeah.
All right. So I got to ask you one more.
Okay, let's do it.
Because my channel revolves around headphones. So I've got to, again, go back to this. And I've seen this in another video. But again, most people may not have seen it. They probably have. What is your all-time, like, what is your favorite headphone? I know it could vary for different things, but like, which one do you pick up, you know, before anything else?
I would say 90% of the time I use the Status Audio CB1s, which I'm wearing right now. They're not the greatest headphone in the world, but they're good in pretty much all aspects. I'm kind of used to editing with these.
Right.
So when I'm like doing my audio mixing with, you know, voice and music and stuff, I will usually listen to it on the MacBook speakers because I'm fairly used to like what those sound like, and I kind of can tell like where my levels need to be. But generally speaking, I will edit with the CB1s on, just because I feel like it's a fairly neutral sound. It's a little bit biased toward bass, but they sound good. And yeah, these are what I wear almost always. The other headphones I wear actually are AirPods lately.
Really?
That's mostly for when I'm like traveling and stuff, and I don't really care. Like I'm on a plane, I don't really care about audio quality, but it's just super nice to be able to have a tiny thing in my pocket, pop one in, pop two in, take it out to pause. Like, I feel like that kind of seamlessness has been sort of helpful when I don't want to have to, carry around these and sit on a plane looking like a giant dork. So those are the two main headphones.
Yeah, wearing those, you look like you might belong in the cockpit actually flying the plane. It looks like
wearing one AirPod in one ear. Like, I'll just sit at the window seat, put an AirPod in on one ear so no one can tell I'm listening to music. I'm like, yes, I am paying all the attention to the safety briefing.
Yep.
Like, actually listen to Logic in my ear.
I noticed that you've had Logic in the background of your videos. Like, it's strategically placed, like the album cover right there. So I can tell that you're a fan of his.
Yes. Stay tuned on that one. There's actually something cool coming up. But on top of that, actually, there's one honorary mention I would love to give on headphones, which are the Grado SR80Es.
That's the ones I saw that you said in a video. So when you said that and you're talking about these, I can tell you like more of a neutral sound. You don't like things really boosted, or at least where you can kind of control on your own end how much you want.
Yeah. So when I'm listening to music, I usually listen to speakers these days, whether it's, in the car, whether it's, on my desk or at home. Like, I'm usually listening to speakers most of the time. And if I'm just listening for fun or whatever, I don't I'm fine with, more bass and that kind of stuff. Yeah. But when I'm listening to, my videos or whatever, I want a more neutral sound just to kind of know what the videos are going to sound like, to kind of have a better understanding. Because I feel like I would like to think I put a fair bit of effort into trying to make sure that my videos sound good across everything from a phone to, a big speaker setup. So when I actually do put headphones on, it's usually because I want to edit. The Grados are probably the only exception in that I don't use those for editing at all. I don't use them for travel at all. The Grados literally exist because I want to sit at home and listen to music and actually have a nice experience without annoying the neighbors. So those are what the Grados are for. They're very specialized for me. I don't use them that often, but when I want to really just kind of sit down and chill and, put on an album or something, throw the Grados on, and I'm off in that world.
Yep. But I really appreciate it. We went like over 40 minutes, and for you to take the time to do this, it really just feels like just talk at it. It doesn't seem like an interview. I didn't want it to feel like that. So again, I really just appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Oh, of course, man. Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I know we had some problems trying to get the schedule synced up, and I had the week of hell with all the videos, but
hey,
thanks for being patient. And
you're a busy man, so
yeah, a little too busy sometimes.
But, again, guys, thank you for watching this video. Thank you so much to Austin for doing this. Again, it's a big deal because I watch all his, not all his videos. I can't sit there and say that because then I'm going to be fake if I say that. I do watch a lot of your videos.
Respect, man. Respect.
Yes. But thank you so much for watching this video, guys. And as always, make sure to stay tuned for more.